Alright, so here we go. I didn't think I would do this so soon, but yeah, we're starting another big iceberg. The unused and cut video game content iceberg was a pretty big undertaking, and this one is too, but this time I plan on just covering it in one long video instead of doing multiple parts. So I'm sure all of you know by now that I like looking into lost media and anything even remotely related to it, such as fake lost media, hoaxes, and even cancelled media, which is kind of a gray area when it comes to lost media. Because, well, it's not exactly lost, it doesn't really exist, it's just something that we can look at and speculate on what it could have been like had it not been scrapped. So thanks to Kitty Cat Fox on Reddit, we have a great iceberg to delve into here on all things cancelled media. So today, we're going to be diving headfirst into the cancelled media iceberg. Level 1. Superman Lives. This cancelled Superman film was going to be directed by Tim Burton and produced by Jon Peters, and even star none other than Nicolas Cage as Clark Kent. The film was going to be based off the story of the death of Superman from the comics, with the main villain being the character Brainiac. However, the project was eventually scrapped, and there was quite a lot that went on in the development of this film, which is all detailed in the documentary The Death of Superman Lives: What Happened, which goes through its entire history, including the various scripts and changes it went through. But at least we did get the images of Nick Cage wearing the Superman costume for this film. Garfield's Judgment Day. This was a planned full feature-length animated special that was going to air in the late 80s or early 90s, but sadly never happened. Which is kind of strange, because there actually was a lot of work that was completed on this special, including completed scripts, storyboards, songs, voice acting, and even 15 minutes of animation, which I forgot to mention was being done by Disney. And after all this work, they actually cancelled the project themselves, saying that the subject matter of the film was too dark for Garfield in their opinion, as it depicted a disaster involving a tornado in Garfield's hometown. And despite the creator Jim Davis trying to adjust the script, Disney rejected continuing the project. And so, it was eventually adapted into a picture book in July of 1990. Glover 2. This is the cancelled and unreleased sequel of the obscure platformer Glover, released in 1998 for the N64, PlayStation, and Windows, in which you control a glove character named Glover, and have to maneuver a ball to the goal at the end of a stage. Now, the sequel, Glover 2, was announced not too long after the release of the first game, and was actually slated for a 1999 release. However, it was cancelled, and for a very strange reason. See, according to James Steele, a developer at Interactive Studios, the reason that Glover 2 was cancelled had nothing to do with the game itself, but the real reason was that Hasbro actually produced too many cartridges of the first Glover, about twice as many as they sold, so they could not get rid of the extra 150,000 copies of Glover, which made them not really want the sequel. And Steele even revealed that the game was about 80 to 85% complete upon its cancellation, and in 2010, a prototype build of the game was actually found, and in a fairly playable state, which can still be downloaded and played today. Star Fox 2. A sequel of the very popular original Star Fox released for the SNES, this sequel, known simply as Star Fox 2, was going to be released in 1995 for the SNES. However, because Nintendo was retiring the SNES in favor of the newer N64 console, they decided not to release the game, hoping that would make people, I guess, buy the N64 to play the newest games. Anyway, it's really interesting because the game was actually finished. That's right, we're not talking early development or anything like that. They didn't release a pretty much complete game. However, over the years, they would end up making use of some of the elements that were found in Star Fox 2, but the game itself would continue to go unreleased. In 1999, however, prototype builds of the game did end up being leaked online. But maybe the most interesting part of this story is that over 20 years since it was completed, the game was actually officially released by Nintendo in 2017 for the SNES Classic, as well as later on in 2019 for the Nintendo Switch. Spider-Man 4. Spider-Man 4 was the planned sequel to the original Spider-Man trilogy by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire, and was planned to be released on May 6th, 2011. The film would have had a lot of the same cast from the previous films returning in this one, of course with Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, but also Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane and J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, with the plot of the film happening 5 years after the events of Spider-Man 3. And it would have focused on Peter's relationship with the character Black Cat, also known as Felicia Hardy. However, Spider-Man would be forced to fight her father, who would be the villain Vulture, with the ending of the film being planned in the script to take a rather dark turn, as it would end with Peter abandoning his Spider-Man suit once and for all. Now, this film wasn't ever made for a variety of reasons, the foremost of those being that Spider-Man 3 was not particularly liked by critics and audience members at the time. Although luckily I feel like that has changed with time, but even so, Sam Raimi himself, the director, wasn't a fan of how the film turned out, and so sadly the film was eventually cancelled. However, some of the concepts that were featured in the original script were used in future Spider-Man movies, such as with the character of Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming. Nimona Film. This is a planned CGI animated film based on a comic book series of the same name, with the development for this film first beginning in 2015, with the rights being acquired by 20th Century Fox Animation. The film itself was being produced by Blue Sky Studios and was going to be released on February 14th, 2020. However, things got a little complicated with the acquisition of Fox by Disney, which delayed the release of the film. And in February of 2021, it was officially cancelled by Disney, as Blue Sky Studios was shut down. However, luckily, in April of this year, the film was picked up again, this time by Annapurna Pictures. And it was announced that the film would be released on Netflix in 2023, so this film is no longer cancelled. Ghostbusters 3. Announced in 1999, this was the proposed sequel to Ghostbusters 2, which was planned to feature the original cast reprising their roles. However, there were many problems in pre-production that led to its cancellation. One of those main reasons being that Bill Murray and Rick Moranis did not have any interest in reprising their characters. There was eventually another version of the film that was discussed called Ghostbusters 3 Hellbent, but this also didn't really go anywhere, and instead there was the 2016 reboot, followed by another film called Ghostbusters Afterlife released in 2021 that served as more of a direct sequel to the original two films instead of following the events of the 2016 reboot. Gigantic. This was a planned and cancelled animated film by Walt Disney Studios that was revealed in 2015 and was going to come out following the release of Frozen 2 in November of 2019. However, long before then, in 2017, it was cancelled and ended up being replaced by Raya and the Last Dragon. The film itself was said to follow the character of Jack, who meets a young giant girl named Inma. The reason the project was cancelled is simply cited as, quote, creative differences. Why? The Last Man on Earth film. This refers to a cancelled film adaptation of the comic book series of the same name, written by Brian K. Vaughan, that centers around the last living man on Earth after some sort of plague kills all living males except for him. Now, the film adaptation was worked on for quite a few years, with scripts and such as well as some casting being done for it. However, after many years of not much progress, it was cancelled in 2014, as stated in a tweet by the planned director, Dan Trachtenberg. However, eventually there was a TV adaptation created that was released in September 2021 by FX on the streaming service Hulu. But just a month later, the show was also cancelled after just one season. Conker's 12 Tales. Also known as 12 Tales Conker 64, was a cancelled game in the Conker series that was planned to be released for the N64, although it was first announced as simply Conker's Quest at E3 1997, and was going to be made for all ages, as this was before Conker's Bad Fur Day, which would come about later as Rare was receiving some criticism for their continued format of platforming games starring cute animals. And they really took this to heart, as of course, as most of us know, Conker's Bad Fur Day was anything but a family-friendly game. As for Conker's 12 Tales, well, the game was completely redesigned, which eventually would become Conker's Bad Fur Day. Popeye film. This refers to the cancelled CGI animated adaptation of the Popeye character, which was being done by Sony Pictures Animation. And a decent amount of development was done, as in 2014, a test animation was released, which actually featured the voice of Tom Kenny as the titular Popeye. However, in March of 2015, it was revealed that the film was sadly cancelled in favor of other productions, such as Hotel Transylvania 2 and Can You Imagine? Although in 2020 the film was picked up again, this time by Warner Bros. And King Feature Syndicate, so it looks like this film still is in development. Henry and June Show. The Henry and June Show was a planned spin-off of the cartoon series Kablam, and there was even a pilot episode that was released in 1999. But it was only aired once, and the spin-off was shortly cancelled after just the one episode and 2 segments, with the pilot itself becoming lost media until it was eventually found in March of 2015. However, it is unknown why the spin-off series was cancelled. Sonic Extreme. I talked about this a little bit in my 14 films that are lost forever video, but basically this is a tie-in game that was to be released alongside a Sonic the Hedgehog live-action film, which was also cancelled. The game, however, was going to be the first 3D Sonic game released for the Sega Saturn. However, the game was never released due to a bunch of problems during development, and some even attribute a lot of the commercial failure associated with the Saturn outside of Japan to this game right here never releasing. Over the years though, a few builds of the game have been discovered and are now playable today. MCU Hulk sequel. The Incredible Hulk film, released in 2008, was one of the first movies of the now gigantic Marvel Cinematic Universe, and was planned to have a sequel at some point early on, but as the studio started to favor other projects following the Hulk's release, such as Iron Man 2, as well as the fact that Edward Norton left the role of Bruce Banner, the idea of having a direct sequel to Hulk just seemed like it wasn't going to happen, especially since Marvel believed that the new Bruce Banner actor, Mark Ruffalo, did very well in ensemble cast settings. Although some members of the cast of The Incredible Hulk are said to be featured in the upcoming Disney Plus series She-Hulk. Roger Rabbit 2. This refers to a planned sequel of the film Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but there were actually quite a few, with some even dating back to soon after the release of the original film in the 1980s. Strangely, the first idea was a World War II themed prequel titled Roger Rabbit 2: The Toon Platoon, which would have had a young Roger Rabbit finding out his father was actually Bugs Bunny, and would also have to rescue Jessica Rabbit from Nazis. But yeah, Spielberg decided this portrayal wasn't in very good taste. There was then another pitch by Spielberg called Who Discovered Roger Rabbit, but it was never made due to budget constraints. And the scripts of these two planned sequels were actually found, and there's even more lore to dig into here, so if you want a deeper dive, I recommend checking out Scribbles to Screen, who made a great video on this specific topic. Level 2. Golden Axe Remake. A planned reboot of the beat-em-up side-scroller Golden Axe, this remake is funnily enough known as Golden Axed, as that's exactly what happened to it. It was going to be a part of a series of remakes called Sega's Reborn series, however, this studio working on the project, Sega Studios Australia, was shut down in 2013. But on October 18th, 2020, a prototype of the game consisting of one level was released for free on Steam for 1 day, with the title Golden Axed. Hey Arnold Jungle Movie Theatrical. Based on the animated Nickelodeon series Hey Arnold, this film was intended to be released theatrically in 2002. However, it was replaced in favor of a different Hey Arnold project. Although there was still interest in pursuing the film, it was officially cancelled in 2004. However, the film was actually picked back up again and eventually released in 2017. But the 2002 version, it seems, was never actually finished after being cancelled, although 40 seconds of animation have been found from the original version. Deadpool the Animated Series. This was a planned but unproduced adult animated series starring Deadpool, which interestingly was written by brothers Steven and Donald Glover, who were also going to be the showrunners and executive producers on the project. The series was planned to have a total of 10 episodes, first by Titmouse Animation, yes, that's their actual name, but were ultimately rejected, although a test animation they created has been found and posted online. So a different studio was chosen, that being the studio responsible for Archer, Floyd County Productions. Although the project was eventually cancelled with a statement from FX citing creative differences for the reason why. The Mask 2. A sequel to the 1994 film The Mask, this was to star the iconic Jim Carrey returning for his role from the previous film, as well as Cameron Diaz. But also interestingly, a small role in the film was up for grabs in a Nintendo Power contest hosted after the release of their game adaptation of the first movie. However, none of this could happen as Jim Carrey ultimately decided not to return for this film, and it was ultimately cancelled. Although a now infamous sequel would be made in 2005 called Son of the Mask, which was a critical and commercial failure. Mega Man Universe. Mega Man Universe was a cancelled Mega Man platforming game said to be a 2.5D side-scroller created for Xbox Live Arcade and PSN. Production on the game began as early as 2010, with an animated teaser being released in June of that year, with gameplay trailers soon following in September. The game was also said to feature a level editor as well as character customization. However, due to, quote, various circumstances, the game was officially cancelled on March 31st, 2011. Lizzie McGuire Reboot. In 2019, it was announced that for Disney Plus, there would be a reboot of the Lizzie McGuire series, and the main actress, Hilary Duff, even shared photos of the set. However, it was eventually cancelled by Disney for being too adult. Duff later revealed after its cancellation that the series was called Lizzie, and that, quote, I'd be doing a disservice to everyone by limiting the realities of a 30-year-old's journey to live under the ceiling of a PG rating. Although she did also express interest in moving the show to Hulu as well, but it's uncertain if the series will be picked up again in the foreseeable future. Jimmy Neutron Season 4. Since the first season's airing in 2002, The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius has been a beloved show by fans and ran until November of 2006, with that being the end of the third season with presumably more to come. However, a fourth season never came, with this being the end of the series. As even if they were planning on continuing the show, the studio responsible for the animation, DNA Productions, shut down shortly after the release of the third season, and so the show was never continued. Although various proposed scripts for a fourth season have been revealed over the years, such as one called Deep Impacts, which would have featured an evil Jimmy. It was also revealed at one point that season 4 was planned to have a total of 26 episodes. Kingdom Hearts pilot. The Kingdom Hearts pilot was going to be tied to a larger animated TV series planned for the Disney Channel in 2002, thanks to the success of the game that it was based on, with the pilot being written and directed by Sean Kearsley. However, the show was turned down by Disney due to it being too dark for a children's series, and over the years, quite a few storyboards from that original pilot have been revealed. Justice League: Worlds Collide. A direct-to-DVD film in the DC animated universe was planned to be produced called Justice League: Worlds Collide, which was going to be produced alongside the Justice League Unlimited series. However, it was cancelled before any voice work could be done, and it's thought that the later released film, Justice League: Crisis on Two Earths, borrows some elements from Justice League: Worlds Collide. Star Wars 1313. First revealed at E3 2012, Star Wars 1313 was shown as a third-person action-adventure title, with players taking the role of Boba Fett as he navigates level 1313 of the planet Coruscant. Most interestingly though, the game was said to be a more mature one, including even having an M rating, with the developers of the game stating, quote, 1313 was going for a mature rating. Great news for anyone who believes Star Wars' more child-centric offerings have been its most disappointing. For LucasArts, this doesn't mean gore and sensationalism. It means adult themes and stories, another reason for glowing anticipation. Sometimes games pursue an M rating because of this desire to do something gratuitously gory, and that's not what we're doing at all. I just don't think those kinds of things go with Star Wars, so when we talk about making something that's mature themed, it really is about those characters, the type of story content we're going to be dealing with, and the kind of things they're motivated by, the world itself as well. And following its reveal, there was a lot of hype built around this game. However, sadly, on April 3rd, 2013, following Disney's acquisition of Star Wars, LucasArts was shut down and development of 1313 ceased, with Disney outright canceling the project by abandoning its trademarks. However, some fans still hold out hope that at least some of the material can be used for something at some point. Kitty Pryde film. This was a planned film in the X-Men film series starring the character Kitty Pryde, as it was announced in January of 2018 that the film was in development. However, in 2019, it was decided that The New Mutants would be the final film in the X-Men series after Disney's purchase of 21st Century Fox. Also in 2020, the actress who played Kitty Pryde transitioned from female to male and became Elliot Page. So it's unlikely that this project will be picked up again, at least in the near future. Level 3. Gibby. This was a planned but cancelled spin-off of the hit show iCarly, which was going to be one of 2 spin-offs of the series. That being alongside Sam and Cat, which actually did end up airing for 1 season and 35 episodes. However, Gibby was never greenlit, although a pilot was actually filmed for the show, and some images have even been found, as well as parts of the script. Although the pilot itself is still lost, with fans hoping that someday it will be released. Super Mario v. Land. Also known sometimes as Mario Adventure, this is a cancelled game that was going to be released for the infamous console, the Virtual Boy, with a playable demo of the game first being revealed in 1995 at the Consumer Electronics Show. The game was going to be mostly a standard 2D side-scroller, but it was also going to utilize some of the 3D capabilities of the Virtual Boy, such as with the 3D moving backgrounds as well as shifting perspectives. However, the game was never finished or released, and instead it was simply reworked into Mario Clash, also released for the Virtual Boy. Me and My Shadow. This was a planned animated film by DreamWorks Studios that was called Me and My Shadow, which was going to use both CGI and traditional animation, and was scheduled for release in March of 2014. This film was going to be about a man named Daniel Grubb and his shadow counterpart, Shadow Dan, as they investigate the crimes of a shadow villain. However, the film did not meet its release window and instead continued development, with Edgar Wright from films such as Shaun of the Dead and Baby Driver from 2017 taking the helm as its new director and writer, and promptly introduced new ideas and concepts into the film. However, ever since then, the project has been in limbo after some management changes at DreamWorks. Chowder TV Movie. This was a cancelled 1-hour TV special project that was revealed in 2009 by the creator, C.H. Greenblatt, on his blog. And he describes it in a post on his website as having involved Chowder going on an adventure after finding a map to Pieland in order to find the ultimate gravy recipe. The most interesting part about this proposed movie, though, in my opinion, is the villain, which Greenblatt also revealed the design of with concept art of the character. And he was called McConaughey, and was based on, well, you guessed it, Matthew McConaughey. Although sadly due to the TV schedule at the time, as well as the fact that the creator himself wasn't a fan of the storyboard that they produced for this movie, it was cancelled and never reworked. Modifiers. The Modifiers initially started as an animated pilot short that was pitched to Nickelodeon in 2007, and was shown in Nicktoons Network's Shorts in a Bunch series, but for whatever reason, Nickelodeon rejected the pilot and didn't want a full series of it. Although one of the creators, Chris Riccardi, planned to develop a miniseries of Modifiers as well as a feature film, although these plans unfortunately never came to fruition. Although the original pilot can still be watched on YouTube. Firefly unproduced episodes. Firefly is an American TV series written and directed by Joss Whedon that ran for only 1 season and 14 episodes in 2002. It followed the adventures of the crew of a ship called the Serenity in the year 2517. However, the show was cancelled after only 11 of the 14 episodes had aired, and there was even a 15th episode that was planned and titled, however, called Dead or Alive, which ended up being scrapped, and is the only one of the unproduced episodes that actually has a script available. I don't really know anything about this show, so I won't get too into the details here, but the other episode concepts were said to feature a dogfighting ring in one episode, another where they would have to make a decision about saving crew members or some other people, and even a tragic backstory episode for the character Inara. Air Knights. This was a conceptual but cancelled sequel of the Sega Saturn platformer Nights into Dreams, which was planned to utilize motion controls on the Sega Dreamcast. Although development originally began on the Saturn, with a new controller as well that would have been included with a tilt sensor, but this idea was eventually moved to the Dreamcast before being cancelled. Although some of the motion sensing capabilities would be used in the Dreamcast game Samba de Amigo, and the original control scheme was later adapted into Knight's Journey of Dreams for the Wii. MAR Heaven dub. So I'm pretty sure this refers to the anime series MAR, also known as MAR Heaven, or by its full name, Marchin Awakens Romance. Anyways, the dub of this show is kind of weird as it was never finished because the episodes were pulled from airing due to declining ratings. But they were also aired out of order, so yeah. Plus, Viz Media, the company doing the dub at the time, was reconstructing and pulled the platform which was actually used to promote the show. So in total, only 52 of the total 104 episodes were dubbed into English. Infinity Train Book 5. Infinity Train was a children's animated cartoon series that aired for 4 seasons, or books as they're also called, with 40 episodes total, and the final season airing in 2021. Although it wasn't meant to just have 4 seasons, actually a lot more were planned, up to 8 even were outlined by the creative team behind it. Following the release of Book 4, there was actually announced to be a film that was in development that was even scripted and storyboarded, but at some point it was cancelled by Cartoon Network due to it missing a quote, child entry point. Although the creator, Owen Dennis, as well as many fans still hold out hope that this film or even a different Book 5 story will be picked up, as there are quite a few fans asking for it. And it's, well, a pretty recent show. Earthworm Jim PSP. This game, simply called Earthworm Jim, but usually referred to as Earthworm Jim PSP, was a planned entry in the series for the PlayStation Portable, which would have actually brought in some of the original developers of the first 2 games, as the later games in the series were without their involvement and they weren't received nearly as well. Anyway, this game was first shown at E3 2006 and was said to return to its roots in terms of gameplay, but also add new mechanics and features, such as a 2-player mode as well as a competitive mode. And the game was also said to have 8 levels, but at some point it was put on hold sometime in 2007, before it was eventually taken off the roster by Atari. Although they did leave the door open to returning to it at some time, but yeah, it's been a long time since that announcement. Search for Mickey Mouse. This is a cancelled Disney animated film that was going to be made for the 75th anniversary of Mickey Mouse. But the film was actually cancelled due to complications with its writing, as they were finding it difficult to cram in as many Disney cameos as they could and still tell a cohesive story. Although it is known that the plot was going to center around Mickey Mouse getting mouse-napped, with Minnie and the rest of Mickey's friends trying to find him, with them encountering a character from every single Disney movie up until that point. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty ambitious project for the time. But news was pretty quiet about this film during its development, and after not hearing much about it, many thought that it was shelved or even cancelled entirely. Although in 2005, on a radio show podcast, it was reported that the film was actually going to be released in 2012 as Disney's 50th animated feature film. However, that rumor was proved false as it ended up being tangled in 2010. And since then, no new credible news has turned up about this film. Captain Planet movie. So this could refer to a lot of different ones, because there were quite a few attempts to make a Captain Planet film, which just never went through for whatever reason. First, in 1996, there was a script written for one of these film adaptations called Simply Planet, although this concept was later revised by writer Michael Reeves into a film called Dark Planet, which would have been much darker than the original series, set in a post-apocalyptic timeline. Although these scripts were either lost or never made it through past the conceptual stages. There were also attempts in 2007, 2011, 2013, and even 2016 with Leonardo DiCaprio's production company, although these have not amounted to anything as of yet. Don Bluth's Little Blue Whale. One of the many Don Bluth projects that unfortunately never made it to the big screen was a film called Little Blue Whale. which has been described as, quote, underwater Bambi. Except this time it's with a blue whale that is orphaned after his mother is killed by whalers, and he ends up befriending a little girl who tries to protect him from those same whalers. The film was stalled and eventually cancelled, however, because the screenwriter, Robert Towne, could not finish a final script due to other commitments, and eventually the project was simply shut down. Sonic SatAM Season 3. Sonic the Hedgehog, or SatAM as it's commonly referred to by fans, is an animated children's TV series, which aired for only 2 seasons and a total of 26 episodes on ABC from September 1993 to December 1994. However, a 3rd season of the show was planned at one point, but for some reason, ABC opted to cancel the show, ending it on a cliffhanger. Although the series has remained popular with many Sonic fans over the years. Among Us 2. Among Us! I'm sorry, you awake? Alright, good. Just making sure. Anyways, Among Us 2. It was first announced in August of 2020 as the sequel to everyone's favorite meme. However, only after a month of development, Innersloth confirmed that they had cancelled the project, instead opting to continue updating the first game, as it had been exploding in popularity at the time, with some of the planned features and maps that were going to be used in the sequel making their way into the original through updates. Level 4. Bomberman 3DS. This was the working title of a now cancelled 3DS game that was going to be in the Bomberman series, and was first revealed in early 2011. It was going to be developed by Hudson Soft and published by Konami, and it was going to have a single-player mode as well as a multiplayer one that was planned to support up to 4 players locally, and 8 players online. However, on March 24th, 2011, it was announced that quite a few of Konami's titles were cancelled, including, unfortunately, Bomberman 3DS. Guillermo del Toro's Mountain of Madness. This was a cancelled film project that was first discussed by famous horror film director Guillermo del Toro, known for such projects as Pan's Labyrinth and The Shape of Water. Known for making such strange and fantastical elements in his horror projects. The story of this film, however, was going to center around a group of explorers in the 1930s that travel to Antarctica and discover a dark and terrifying secret. However, the story was said to be, quote, unfilmable, as it was an adaptation of a work of the same name by famous author H.P. Lovecraft. And due to many issues during pre-production, the film was never made and was eventually cancelled, possibly due to Guillermo del Toro taking on other projects at the time. Unproduced OKKO episodes. OKKO Let's Be Heroes was a cartoon series that ran for 112 episodes from August 2017 to September 2019, and starred the titular character KO on his quest to become the greatest hero. But this entry refers to a few unproduced episodes of the show, which are known because the show was not renewed for a 4th season, as well as the fact that Season 3 actually had a reduced number of episodes than was originally planned. It was also stated by one of the creators that, quote, story arc elements were written how they originally planned it, and that they wanted way more standalone side character development stories, fun one-off episodes, ridiculous flights of fancy, crossovers, and flashbacks. Star Wars Underworld. Star Wars Underworld was one of the proposed titles of a live-action television series in the Star Wars franchise that was first announced in 2005, and was going to take place between episodes 3 and 4 in the timeline. And George Lucas said about the series, quote, "It's kind of like episode 4. It's funny and there's action, but it's a lot more talky. It's more of what I would call a soap opera with a bunch of personal dramas in it. It's not really based on action-adventure films from the 30s. It's actually more based on film noir movies from the 40s. The show was also planned to have at least 100 episodes, or 100 hours of content, and over the years, many ideas were introduced, as well as various scripts and designs, trying to incorporate Lucas's ideas for the project. However, sadly, in 2010, it was announced by Lucas that the series was put on hold due to budget constraints, and since then, some of the ideas from this series have been used in other projects. Battletoads GBA. This was an unreleased Battletoads title made for the Game Boy Advance, although development on this game didn't get very far before it was eventually cancelled. However, there was a playable alpha prototype which was created, and has since been found as of November 19th, 2011. Guillermo del Toro's Haunted Mansion. Another cancelled Guillermo del Toro project, Haunted Mansion was another film that was going to involve him, this time as the director, writer, and producer, with the film being based on the Disney attraction of the same name. And it was announced in mid-2010, with the script being sent off to Disney in 2012, which was aimed at a PG-13 rating, as it was revealed that it would be, quote, scary and fun at the same time, but the scary will be scary. However, there were some changes in development, and Del Toro was no longer involved at some point as the director, and the script was rewritten for fear that it would be too scary for family audiences. However, the actual film itself isn't cancelled as of now, and in fact is meant to release on March 10th, 2023, although Del Toro's version will most likely never see the light of day. Sonic Movie 1993. Also known as Sonic Wonders of the World, this film was going to be the first live-action Sonic film, and it was originally proposed in 1993, and was planned to release alongside a Sonic game called Sonic Extreme. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. However, both this film and the game Sonic Extreme ended up being cancelled. Scooby-Doo 2002 Early Pitch. Remember that old live-action Scooby-Doo movie? The one that apparently everyone hated? Well, there was an early pitch of that film that looked quite different from what we got. In fact, an early script that was found has made a lot of fans interested, as it depicts a much more adult version of the film, which some believe could have even gotten an R rating, as many aspects of this original version had to be changed for the final film to get a younger rating, including using CGI over the cleavage of actresses. Yes, apparently they did that. And there was also apparently even a scene in the script with Shaggy smoking weed. Yeah, pretty wild stuff for a kids movie. Fez 2. Fez was a planned sequel to the indie hit Fez, created by developer Phil Fish. But it was suddenly cancelled by the developer himself on Twitter when he said in a tweet that Fez 2 is cancelled, goodbye. Which may not seem like a formal cancellation, but it was later confirmed by the company Polytron, who said, quote, "It's with a heavy heart that we announce that Fez 2 is no longer in development. We apologize for the disappointment." Level 5. Earthworm Jim 4. Announced by Interplay Entertainment in 2008, Earthworm Jim 4 would arise following the cancellation of another Earthworm Jim title for the PSP in 2007. However, this project would also encounter issues, and would have a kind of limbo development status for over 10 years, until in May of 2019, it was announced that it was still being developed, this time for a console called the Intellivision Amico, which, if you haven't heard of this, I really don't blame you. I had no idea what this was either. But apparently it was planned to be released in 2020 and was indefinitely delayed. But who knows, maybe this game really will be released someday. What's Stevie thinking? This was another planned spin-off of Lizzie McGuire, although this show was planned to center around the characters Miranda and Stevie Sanchez, as well as their friends and family as they work to support wildlife conservation. And a pilot episode was even filmed for the series, although it was never aired and the spin-off was eventually cancelled. Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance Season 2. The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance was a 2019 American television series created as a prequel to the 1982 film The Dark Crystal, created by Jim Henson, and was released to nearly universal acclaim, although sadly it was never picked up for a second season, and was cancelled in September 2020. Although Jim Henson's daughter, Lisa Henson, has said this about the project, quote, "We can confirm that there will not be an additional season of The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance. We know fans are eager to learn how this chapter of the Dark Crystal saga concludes, and will look for ways to tell that story in the future. Our company has a legacy of creating rich and complex worlds that require technical innovation, artistic excellence, and masterful storytelling. Our history also includes productions that are enduring, often finding and growing their audience over time, and proving again and again that fantasy and science fiction genres reflect eternal messages and truths that are always relevant." Animated Where the Wild Things Are. This was a cancelled CGI and traditionally animated film that was going to be based on the 1963 book of the same name by Maurice Sendak, and was to be directed by John Lasseter. The only part of the film that was animated, though, was a test sequence, which showed some of the backgrounds that were to be used, as well as some of the characters that were planned to be traditionally animated. However, the film was dropped due to budget concerns over the proposed animation style. Spectacular Spider-Man, Season 3. The 2008 Spider-Man animated series aired for 2 seasons of 26 episodes in total, and was beloved by fans, even winning many awards in 2008 and 2009. The series was originally planned to go for 5 seasons and 65 episodes. However, production stopped after the second season due to the renewal being dependent on DVD sales, and the show was officially cancelled in 2010 after Marvel was acquired by Disney. Arwen, Zack and Cody spin-off. This was a proposed spin-off of The Suite Life of Zack and Cody that was never picked up by Disney, but was meant to star the character Arwen, who was the Tipton Hotel's engineer. Despite the series not being picked up, the other spin-off written by Danny Callis was picked up, called The Suite Life on Deck, which ran from 2008 to 2011. Alf Reboot 2018. Alf was a sitcom that aired in the 80s about a strange and creepy looking alien called Alf, or alien life form. However, there was planned to be a modern reboot in 2018, which was announced by Warner Bros. However, these plans were cancelled that same year in November, although the rights to new Alf content was acquired in 2022 by Shout Factory, leaving the door open to possibly new Alf films or even a different TV reboot. Haunted Mansion: The Animated Series. Another cancelled property tied to the Haunted Mansion, this time an animated series which was pitched to Disney in 2017, and even has a pilot reel which was found of the animated material. And there have been many sketches and character designs which have also been revealed. The story would have followed a girl named Annie, who navigated through the houses learning about the various pieces of history and story that took place there. However, unfortunately, Disney never did pick up the series. Kid Kirby. This is a cancelled title in the Kirby series that was planned to be released for the SNES and was in development by DMA Design, who is most famous for being the company that eventually would become Rockstar North, who created the original Grand Theft Auto. Although no footage exists, there are quite a few sketches and character designs. However, the game ended up being cancelled due to years of unproductive development, as well as the fact that the SNES was slowly becoming outdated and phased out by the new console, the Nintendo 64. Level 6. Ned's Declassified High School Survival Guide. Another cancelled spin-off, definitely a lot of these on this list, but anyway, this one was a planned spin-off of the series, Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. But this one was of course meant to take place at a high school, and the show was proposed in 2008, but due to many of the actors being busy with other projects, as well as the fact that the creator Scott Fellows was working on another Nickelodeon show, Big Time Rush, the series was never greenlit or put into any kind of production. Seth MacFarlane Flintstones. This is something I've already talked about before, but basically this was a planned reboot of the Flintstones series done by Seth MacFarlane, the creator of Family Guy, with the series being planned to have that same kind of style. And it was first announced in 2011, but was cancelled in 2013, as the script that was written for the series was not loved by the Fox executives, as it was aimed at a more mature audience, similar to Family Guy. And when asked about it on a Reddit AMA, Seth MacFarlane also said this about the project's status. Quote, "As of now, probably not. Honestly, I couldn't figure out a way to find enough differentiation between a modern-day Fred Flintstone and Peter Griffin. Yeah." Scrapped Zim's episodes. Invader Zim is a beloved cartoon animated series that aired from 2001 to 2006 for a total of 27 episodes. However, despite the show being loved by fans and critics alike, it was cancelled after 27 of the originally planned 40 episodes. The reason cited was that the show had bad ratings at the time due to it being for a slightly older demographic. Although since its cancellation, it's received its huge increase in popularity and is still talked about today. Although as far as the scrapped episodes, there are several which the show's creators and writers have discussed, so I won't go through all of them here. Although some of the concepts from these scrapped episodes are thought to have been used in the Invader Zim comic series. Plastic Man, 1996. One of DC's more strange and obscure superheroes was planned to make his debut in a 1996 live-action film done by the creators of The Matrix, starring none other than Keanu Reeves as the character. At least that's how the rumor goes, as he has since denied it. Still though, not much at all has surfaced from this cancelled film, and not much at all is known about its script or anything else really. Duke Nukem film. The whole situation with the Duke Nukem live-action film is kind of confusing, but basically it started with the original project, which went through a sort of development hell. Although we do know that at one point, John Cena was attached to the project and was going to play the titular character. But then it was kind of quiet after that, and there wasn't really much info coming out. Many just assumed that it was shelved or quietly cancelled. However, while making this video, in June of 2022, it was revealed that the project was still in fact alive. Now it was the creators of Cobra Kai on board to produce the film. So I guess it's not technically cancelled, although it looks like, as of now, John Cena won't be coming in to play Duke Nukem himself. The Muppets Present. This was the working title of a now cancelled Muppets TV show that was expected to be released in 2002, and was announced by the Jim Henson Company in 2001. There was a pitch put together for potential advertisers, and in it, the character Pepe the King Prawn would present the show, and stated that it would be hip and edgy. However, not much else is known about the show, other than the fact that it was at some point cancelled and never actually produced. Fairly Odd Parents film. This was a planned animated film based on the very popular animated Nickelodeon series of the same name, although not much at all concerning the production or even the plot of the film is known, as it was eventually shelved and at some point cancelled, as stated by Butch Hartman himself on a podcast. And in 2017, the TV series came to an end as well, although recently in 2022, a live-action hybrid series called Fairly Odd Parents, Fairly Odder was released on the streaming service Paramount+. Sonic Mars. An unreleased spin-off game in the Sonic the Hedgehog series, Sonic Mars was originally planned to be on the Sega 32X, but was ultimately cancelled due to the failure of the console. Although the project would later be redeveloped into Sonic Extreme, but as we know, that was also cancelled. Sonic Mars, however, was planned to feature elements from the TV series going on at the time, and would have Sonic rescuing one of his friends in each stage, who would then end up being part of the playable roster afterwards. And there's quite a few concepts, screenshots, and even control layouts which have been found as of now. Jet Set Radio Wii. This refers to a pitched concept by Kuju Entertainment and concept artist Corey Lewis, who wanted to create a new Jet Set Radio title for the Wii, and pitched this idea to Sega, although the game was never picked up sadly and not much else is known about the project, although a few pieces of concept art for the game have surfaced, but that's about it. Level 7. Pudding Toast. Another pitched project, this time to Nickelodeon in 2012 by a creator named Daniel Chong. Pudding Toast was planned to be made into a series and had 2 pilots which were made for the pitch. And the creator said about the series, quote, "One of these days, I'll post my never-released Nickelodeon pilot from 2012, Pudding Toast." It was in development for 3 years, made 2 pilots, and was buried in notes constantly. After they passed, I pitched to Bears to Cartoon Network a month later. And not much else is known, although some of the concept art for the series has been found, but the 2 pilots are still lost to this day. Hong Kong Phooey film. Hong Kong Phooey was a planned and later cancelled film that was based on the animated series of the same name from 1974, with the film version planning to star Eddie Murphy as Hong Kong Phooey. Plans for this film have dated all the way back to 2009, with some test footage of the live-action CGI being leaked in late 2012, but it was delayed multiple times, until it was eventually stated that it would release in 2019. Although this too never came to fruition, and the project has likely since been shelved for good. Bonk, Brink of Extinction. This was a 2010 platformer game that was planned to be released on Xbox Live Arcade, PSN, and Nintendo WiiWare for about $10. The game was said to be a platformer that featured single-player and multiplayer gameplay, that had a story mode with 3 worlds, each having 10 stages. Even more interesting, the game was apparently finished but just never released, and was cancelled due to the studio being bought out by Konami, with some believing the move was done to save money, while others believe that it is because the plot of the game revolves around a natural disaster, which wouldn't have been in good taste for a Japanese market at the time, due to the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami disaster, although this is merely speculation and unconfirmed. I Heart Tuesdays. Okay, I feel like I've talked about this show a million times at this point, Okay, maybe not that much, but at least twice, right? I don't know, I'm not keeping count. But anyway, this was an unfinished animated cartoon series planned for Cartoon Network, which was also produced by the R&B singer Neo. However, since its reveal, it was eventually removed from Cartoon Network's upcoming shows list, and that was way back in 2013, which led people to assume that the show was indeed cancelled. Batman vs. Hush. For The Batman, an animated TV series which aired from 2004 to 2008, there was a direct-to-DVD film that was created for the series called The Batman vs. Dracula in 2005. And a planned follow-up to this was The Batman vs. Hush, and the film was eventually pitched, although sadly it was never picked up. Although some art has since been released. And in 2019, there was a direct-to-DVD animated film called Batman Hush that was released. Kitty Bobo second pilot. Cartoon Network in 2001 hosted what they called a Big Pick contest, in which animation pilots would be voted on to see which would become a full series on Cartoon Network. And one of these was a Kitty Bobo show, which ended up getting second place behind Codename Kids Next Door. However, Cartoon Network wanted a second pilot in 2002, and there was a storyboard that was created for it. However, it was cancelled eventually by Cartoon Network for being too abstract for their target demographic. However, these storyboards were revealed by the creator Megan Dunn and were showcased in a video featuring her created by Stay Up Late Productions on YouTube. Outrun Express. There's not a lot of info out there about this one, but basically from what I could find, this was an animated pilot that was a part of Cartoon Network's shorts department and was created in 2017 by Jeremy Polgar, but was unfortunately never picked up, although a rough cut of the animation can be viewed on Jeremy's channel. He also described the series in a synopsis as such, quote, Outrun Express is a serialized animated sci-fi action comedy series about two teenage delivery bots that will work fast and hard to bring you freedom in the form of fresh food. That is, unless they get busted by Ultra Corp, the monopolizing food powerhouse. Cartoonstitute. Cartoonstitute was a planned project created by Cartoon Network that would have been used as a way to showcase various animated shorts. The project was slated to have 39 shorts created for it, although only 14 were actually completed. But due to there being so many upcoming shows at the time, the project was scrapped, although 2 of the shows presented were greenlit, those being Uncle Grandpa and Regular Show. And on May 7th, 2010, almost all of the shorts were posted to Cartoon Network's website, all except Maruined, Three Dog Band, and Joey to the World. Gargoyles Animated Universe. Gargoyles was an animated television series that ran from 1994 to 1997 with 3 seasons and 78 episodes in total. But this refers to a time where Gargoyles was planned to be a part of a Disney action universe, akin to like DC or Marvel. In fact, Disney asked the creator of the show, quote, could we use Gargoyles as the launching pad for a Disney action universe? And he actually told them yes. However, this would never come to pass, most likely due to internal issues and things going on at Disney at the time. Scooby-Doo 2006. Now, I'm not exactly sure what this is referring to. I'm guessing it could mean the 3rd live-action Scooby-Doo film, which would have been in production around that time had it not been cancelled.
Sorry, you're cancelled.
This being due to the fact that the first 2 films were panned by critics, and that Warner Bros. Was not happy with the box office returns. However, James Gunn did reveal a plot synopsis of the film, reading, quote, the Mystery Inc. gang are hired by a town in Scotland, who complain they are being plagued by monsters. But we discover throughout the film the monsters are actually the victims, and Scooby and Shaggy have to come to terms with their own prejudices and narrow belief systems. Level 8. Golem Hearts. This refers to a manga series called Golem Hearts that ran from October 30th, 2017 to February 19th, 2018, for a total of 2 volumes and only 15 chapters, before it was abruptly and suddenly cancelled at the start of a new story arc with no prior warning. This was allegedly due to the very poor sales of the first volume in Japan. 12 Forever Season 2. 12 Forever was an American animated series that premiered on Netflix on July 29th, 2019. However, it only ran for the first season of 25 episodes before it was cancelled. However, it was stated in 2020 that the show was on, quote, indefinite hiatus. So I guess it could potentially come back, although it doesn't look like there are any plans for the show to return in any way. Motor City Season 2. Produced by Disney Television Animation and created by Chris Pranosky, Motor City was an animated television series that ran from April 2012 to January of 2013 on Disney XD, before it was cancelled after just 1 season of 20 episodes. This, like many other shows, was most likely due to poor ratings, which is unfortunate but something that's common in this industry. Glitch Text Season 3. This is once again another American animated TV series that was eventually never renewed, this time for a 3rd season. Although this series was also premiered on Netflix in 2020 and ran for 2 seasons and a total of 19 episodes, and received positive reception for its gaming style of TV show, as well as the cultural and racial diversity present in its casting. However, the proposed 3rd season of 10 episodes never came to fruition, even though they were presumably already written and storyboarded. Alf Season 5. We're back to talking about Alf. I can never get away from this thing. But anyway, the Alf TV show ran for a whopping 4 seasons and 102 episodes. Now, I'm not judging, I know people love this show, but this is one creepy mascot. I don't know, man, the 80s was a wild time. And the series ends on a cliffhanger in Season 4 where Alf is captured by the US military, and it was planned that Season 5 would show him living on this military base, although that never actually happened. And this ending is just kind of sad, I guess. Hollywood Reporter said about the ending and cancellation, quote, "That was where the 5th season was to start off, but regulations on network-owned shows were reversed, meaning that NBC suddenly had new plans. It could develop its own programs, a much more lucrative proposition, which meant the end for the Alf TV series." Revenge of the Nerds 2007. A 2007 remake of the 1984 comedy film Revenge of the Nerds was planned but quickly cancelled, even after filming for the movie had already begun, due to multiple production issues and concerns in early filming. But not much else is known about this cancelled remake. Truman Capote's Answered Prayers. This was an unfinished novel written by the famous American author Truman Capote, and was published after his death in 1986. However, he worked on the book for several years, and many believed, even in the 70s, that it would never be released. And he described his process of writing the book as, quote, "In 1972, I began work on Answered Prayers by writing the last chapter first. Then I wrote the first chapter, then the fifth, then the seventh. I went on in this manner, writing different chapters out of sequence. I was able to do this only because the plot, or rather plots, were true, and all the characters were real. I hadn't invented anything. Although there are quite a few missing chapters, and many theories as to what would have been contained in them, as well as what might have happened to them, such as some believing that some of the manuscripts and chapters were destroyed on purpose. Ghostbusters 2016 sequels. Ghostbusters 2020, also known as Ghostbusters 2, was the planned sequel to the 2016 reboot of Ghostbusters, which was announced shortly after its original release, with most of the main cast from that film being signed on for the sequel. However, due to the film being a box office failure, as well as for it being panned by audiences, this new Ghostbusters universe was scrapped. However, the Ghostbusters reboot franchise was eventually continued with a follow-up film, Ghostbusters Afterlife, which served as a direct sequel to the original films, and had no relation to the 2016 reboot. Banjo-Kazooie X. Banjo-Kazooie X was a planned remake of the original Banjo-Kazooie, which was being developed by Rare for the Xbox in 2005. Despite the project being cancelled pretty early on in development, it was redeveloped into Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, as the planned remake game had already made quite a few creative departures from the original game. Level 9. Green Lantern 2. This was a proposed sequel to the 2011 film Green Lantern starring Ryan Reynolds. However, when discussions for a part 2 were happening, he expressed no interest in returning. Not only that, but the first film also bombed at the box office and was panned by audiences and critics alike, so it's not hard to see why this sequel was cancelled. Nikolai Gogol's Dead Souls. This is a Russian novel published in 1842 and written by author Nikolai Gogol. However, it was intended to be a 3-part work, but the work actually ends mid-sentence, with the second part of the manuscript said to have been burned by the author himself shortly before his death. Although some people still consider this version of the work to actually be complete in its current state. 01. 01 is a kind of obscure manga series written by author Hiroya Oku, who you might recognize as the guy who made Gantz. 01, however, was a seinen sci-fi manga about a young boy named Neru, who tries to take revenge on his classmate Yagami, which also happens to take place in the year 2028. However, it was cancelled after only 3 volumes and 41 chapters were made, having been published from April 1999 to March 2000. And as of now, I'm unsure why it was cancelled, but it can be assumed that it was due to poor reception, rating, or sales. And it also might have something to do with this weird CGI art style. Just maybe. Klonoa film. This film was a cancelled adaptation of the Klonoa video game series that was planned to feature an original story that took place in the same universe as the games. However, on January 5th, 2019, the project was officially cancelled, although the reason for why was never officially stated. It has been assumed though to be due to budget concerns, as the last update made on the film was in regards to finding financial partners for the movie. Stop-motion Star Fox series. It was revealed in 2015 by Adam Conover that College Humor, yes, stick with me here, was working directly with Shigeru Miyamoto on a Star Fox claymation stop-motion animation series based on the Wes Anderson style of animation that would actually adapt the novel Fantastic Mr. Fox. I know, kind of confusing. Although this was actually just shut down and cancelled by Nintendo, due to a Legend of Zelda series being leaked on Netflix. Just a pretty weird story and situation in general, honestly. Drax Night Out, NES. This was the title of an unreleased video game developed for the NES that was going to prominently feature the Reebok Pump shoe of all things. The player would control Dracula while wearing these Reebok pumps, and would have to make his way through the castle avoiding villagers and even sucking their blood to unlock abilities. And apparently you could even acquire Reebok Pump power-ups, such as speed boosts and bigger jumps. Yeah, this game was pretty much just an advertisement. But sadly it never officially released, despite being completed and even scheduled for release in 1991. However, a prototype ROM of the game has been found and can be played via emulators. Mina and the Count. Another piece of cancelled Dracula media, this time in the form of an animated TV series, which was planned and never actually fully developed. Although there were animated shorts that aired on multiple networks. And the series even also had Mark Hamill voicing Vlad the Count. However, for whatever reason, the show wasn't picked up for a full-fledged animated series. Drake of the 99 Dragons franchise. So this one's actually kind of funny. Basically, if you haven't heard of it, Drake of the 99 Dragons is a notoriously bad video game, released for the Xbox in 2003, where you play as the assassin Drake, who goes on a quest to avenge his clan known as the 99 Dragons. The funny part is that the developer Idle Effects intended for this game to be like a huge hit, and actually wanted it to lead to a multimedia franchise, including comic books and its own animated series. However, all of that was scrapped because of the game's notorious reputation, and general negative reception upon release. Vector Man 3. Also known as Vector Man Ultra, this was a planned third game in the Vector Man series, and was going to be developed by Blue Sky Software and would be released for the Sega Saturn. There were many concepts and ideas created for the game, including some pieces of concept art which were sold on eBay. And from this concept art, we can see some of the ideas in terms of level design, but it's unknown if the game was meant to be 2D or 3D. It was also never directly stated why the third game was cancelled. Although the franchise would almost see another release in a PS2 game, but that was also unfortunately cancelled. Shantae 2 Risky Revolution. Also known as Shantae Advance, this was a planned sequel to the Game Boy Advance game Shantae. However, the game was never actually completed. And some of its elements, including some assets, were repurposed for the game Shantae Risky's Revenge, released for the DSi. It's been said that this game was cancelled due to the developer WayForward having troubles finding a publisher for it. One of the game's creators, Matt Bozon, also revealed that there is a build of the game, and that he hopes he can release it to the public someday, but that was stated all the way back in 2014. Get 'em Tommy. This was a web series created by Victor Courtwright and released to Cartoon Network's YouTube channel in 2016. Although the episodes have since become kind of hard to find, as in 2018, Cartoon Network privated all of the episodes. It's theorized that this could be because of the creator's other project, Thundercats Roar, having a controversy because of it borrowing many ideas from other shows. Although as of September 2021, all of the episodes have been found. Still, the reason for its cancellation hasn't been stated directly, but my guess is it had something to do with the creator's controversy. Level 10. Kirby Tilt and Tumble 2. This was a planned sequel to the original Kirby Tilt and Tumble for the Game Boy Color. Its sequel was first announced by Nintendo at Space World 2001, where it was stated that it would use a Game Boy Advance as a controller, using a special cartridge with motion sensors, although the game was actually meant to be on the GameCube. Kind of an interesting concept. However, in 2002, there were some pretty big changes in development, and the game was reworked into Roll-O-Rama, with Kirby being completely removed from the game. Although after a few years, that project was even cancelled, and no version of this game has ever been released. Starfy Game Boy Color. Also known in Japan as Densetsu no Starfy for the Game Boy Color, was a working title for a game in the Starfy series that was eventually cancelled before being reworked into Starfy for the Game Boy Advance in 2002. Although plans for the original version dated all the way back to 1995, before it was reworked in 1998 for the Game Boy Color, which had a decent amount of promotion around it, including a trailer. However, this version was cancelled in favor of the newer system, the Game Boy Advance at the time. Lucky Beast DTVA pilot. This was once again another pilot for an animated series that was sadly never picked up, although it was shown to Disney. But since then, the studio that worked on the project has shown a clip of the animation on their website, and even shared a few pieces of concept art as well. Bill Cosby 77. Announced in August of 2014, this unreleased and cancelled stand-up comedy film is notable for starring the very controversial figure Bill Cosby, and was filmed on his 77th birthday, hence the title, and it was scheduled for release on Netflix on November 28, 2014. However, it was delayed by Netflix due to the growing number of accusations made against Bill Cosby, and around a year later, the film was officially cancelled for obvious reasons. Making Fiends. Making Fiends is an animated children's cartoon series that aired from October 4th, 2008 to November 1st, 2008 on Nicktoons Network for only 6 episodes, as it was sadly cancelled after just the 1 season and the 6 episodes, despite it being one of the highest rated programs on Nicktoons, as well as the fact that reruns aired all the way until October 2016, and I'm not really sure why it was cancelled. But like usual, it could have been due to low viewership while it was airing, as sometimes these kind of shows can only be appreciated after they're gone. For Kids F-Zero dub. So F-Zero GP Legend, or also known as F-Zero Falcon Densetsu, is a Japanese anime series that aired from 2003 to 2004, for a total of 51 episodes, with the series being based off of the F-Zero video game franchise. The English dub of the series was done by 4Kids, and was first premiered in September 2004, although only 15 of the 51 episodes were aired before the show was cancelled, most likely due to low ratings like many of the others on this Iceberg. And because the remaining 36 episodes were never aired, they are still lost to this day. Shaman King 2017. Now, I'm no expert on this, and I'm not exactly sure what this is referring to, but my best guess would be a 2017 attempt at a Shaman King anime reboot, based on the acclaimed manga of the same name. There was an anime adaptation in 2001, but also in 2015, the MAPPA studio president expressed interest in a reboot, and in 2017, the author of the manga, Hiroyuki Take, confirmed that he received an offer for an anime reboot, but that he declined it, which shut down that possibility. Until in 2021, an anime reboot for the series was created. Tron Ares. In 2010, a third film in the Tron series was announced to be in development. However, for many years, development on this film remained stagnant. And it wasn't until March of 2019 that one of the producers confirmed that they were still working on the project. It was also confirmed in 2019 that Jared Leto would be a part of the main cast. And as of now, I don't think this film is entirely cancelled, but has just had a really rough development over the years. And it's thought that it will eventually release on Disney+. Dungeon Crawlers pilot. This refers to a cancelled Nickelodeon pilot that was never made into a full series called Dungeon Crawlers, which was said to be a D&D inspired cartoon that also had a more Cartoon Network looking style, which could be one of the reasons that Nickelodeon passed up on it, but we don't know for sure. However, the pilot can still be watched on YouTube. Pokemon anime original ending. From the notes of one of the head writers of the original Pokemon anime, Takeshi Shudo, a few alternate ending concepts were found for the anime. One of these were described as such, quote, "Months and years pass. Ash grows old. Then one day suddenly he looks back on his past. He remembers his childhood fondly, the adventures he had with his amazing Pokemon. The friendship, the coexistence. Maybe Ash wasn't able to experience these things later in life. Elderly Ash remembers everything that happened during his adventures as a young boy. The next morning, he is woken up by his mother. He's a young boy again, leaving his house excited to start a new adventure." And the second idea for the ending was even crazier. Apparently he toyed around with the idea that there would be a final arc in which the Pokemon would revolt against their trainers, with there actually being a fight between Pikachu and Ash. Yeah, pretty wild stuff. Although obviously none of these concepts were actually used, and these were merely the ideas of one writer. Still, some pretty interesting stuff. And that about does it for this iceberg. I know it's a long one again, but I thought there were some pretty interesting entries on here, but let me know what you think. Were there some that got left out? And which ones would you have loved to see? Let me know down below in the comments. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. If you did like the video, please leave a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And you know, if you want to leave a super thanks, just kidding. But yeah, I'm sorry it took so long to get this video out there. I got really sick with the you know what. And then I recovered from that and got a sinus infection right after. So if I sound really nasally in this video, that's why. Sorry about that. But don't worry, it won't be 2 months again before the next upload, I promise that this time. And yeah, just thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.